here I am. I'm at the end of chapter 5. There is a little cultural liaison section titled L'importance des repas en famille au Maghreb. Of course, the Maghreb is so important when you're talking about French culture in general, because the Maghreb is so close, because the Maghreb has the former colonial ties with France, because there are so many people from the Maghreb in France. When you say Maghreb, that actually means, in Arabic, the West. So those who the French will see as being from an Eastern culture are actually from a culture that is seen as being the West from the perspective of other countries in the Near East and in the Arabic world. So the Maghreb brings a culture that is really between East and West. They love to eat like the French, so there are some common resonances between French cuisine and la cuisine du Maghreb, la cuisine algérienne, marocaine et tunisienne. Remember that the south of France is a Mediterranean culture, and the cultures, most of the settlements in the Maghreb are along the Mediterranean, so there are many common resonances between the Mediterranean cooking, Mediterranean cooks on both sides, on both shores. But you also have those who live in the Sahel Desert and those who live up into the mountains, in the Atlas Mountains, in Algeria and Morocco, and those cultures will feel very different in how they cook. There are many dishes that are part of a French diet just by cultural influences. La tagine and le couscous. There are so many North African restaurants in France, whereas a North African restaurant in the US is still pretty rare. So a lot of times French people, when they go out, they look forward to going to the North African restaurant to get a big dish that they can all share. With the sense of community in the Maghreb, that includes how they eat. They have one big couscous dish or one big tagine which they share, and then of course the delicious thé à la menthe, or the mint tea, which is poured in a very special way with the delicious desserts at the end of the meal. You see, this picture shows a family eating. You see where the table is? It's much closer to the floor. The way of eating traditionally is at a very low table that allows people to sit either on little couches or floor mats or any type of cushion or pillows, or low stools, les tabourets. When you go into the apartment or the house of someone you know who's from Morocco or Algeria or Tunisia, look carefully. You're probably going to see two tables. The way it's done is there's the low table in one area of the house, perhaps the salle de séjour, and then there's the European-style dining room table for formal occasions. In most cases, though, people who've been raised in the North African tradition, they use the European-style dining room only for inviting guests, especially French guests over, and they have most of their meals at the low table, at the low, what we would call coffee table, but in North Africa, that's where, that's their traditional table, is the table that sits lower to the ground. That's where women eat separately when you're in North Africa. And I'd just like to go over one cultural section which reinforces what I see as the resonance between how North Africans see food and French people as well. Food is what brings everybody together. Oh, now here's another resonance, la fondue suisse. Up in the mountains, in the French Alps and the Swiss Alps, people will eat cheese either in a fondue, where they dip into melted cheese, or in a raclette, where they cut cheese off of a big raclette cheese wedge. Voilà, la parole est à vous, features Samira de Tunis. Oui, manger au restaurant, c'est mauvais pour la santé. Quand on fait la cuisine à la maison, on peut choisir des ingrédients frais et sains. Les restaurants utilisent souvent trop de beurre et de sel. Now, this woman expressing herself about the importance of eating at home, shopping in the markets and getting fresh and healthy food to begin with. This resonates with how French people from Europe, French people from Africa, French people from North Africa, French citizens from Asia, they all are thinking the same way. So anywhere you go, in any cuisine that you have blended into the French cuisine, you're going to have an emphasis on fresh ingredients and cooking for the community and enjoying cooking for the community from day to day. Even if women work in France in general, women go to work, they still find time to cook in the evening. It's deeply embedded into their way of being at home and being together as a family. Voilà. I'd like to just add that this week, the emphasis on our discussion board is going to be on putting together a meal, or if you're less ambitious, at least one traditional plat or traditional dish. I'd like you to focus on a traditional dish from one of the regions in France or from one of the cultures of France. Something classic. Find it on marmiton.org and share with everybody. Yes, Jess, hold on.